Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving into something that's been causing a lot of buzz in Nigeria.
Hmm.
It's about the ethnic makeup of President Tinubu's government
Oh, yeah.
and what that could mean for the future of the country.
Yeah, this is a big one for sure. And we're going to be looking at a really interesting opinion piece
Okay.
that was published this week in the Vanguard,
In the
a
Vanguard.
major Nigerian newspaper.
Got it.
It's called Yorubanization of Tinubu's government. Nigeria's fate is now in Yoruba hands.
Wow.
Yeah.
The author, Olu Fasan.
Mm,
He's not afraid to make a statement, is he?
definitely not subtle.
No.
So his main point is that even though Tinubu campaigned on,
Right.
this whole platform of saving the Yoruba people,
Saving the Yoruba people.
his government is like totally dominated by Yorubas in all the important positions, and he thinks this could be a problem for Nigeria's ethnic balance.
Oh, wow. So for listeners who might not know a ton about Nigerian politics,
Here.
the Yorubas are one of the biggest ethnic groups there, along with the Hausa Fulani and the Igbo. And the balance between these groups has always been a really sensitive issue.
Yeah, definitely. And Fasan gives a bunch of examples.
Okay.
He points out all these important appointments that Tinubu has made, like in the economic sector,
Okay.
the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria,
Right.
which is kind of like their version of the Federal Reserve.
Uh-huh.
That's a Yoruba. And then you've got the Minister of Finance,
Okay.
the coordinating minister of the economy,
Right.
ministers for the blue economy, the digital economy, solid minerals, trade and investment. It just goes on and on.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not just in the cabinet.
Nope. He mentions that Tinubu himself is the Minister of Petroleum.
Oh, wow.
And then he talks about the heads of these big financial institutions like the Bank of Industry,
Okay.
the Federal Inland Revenue Service. They're both Yoruba, too. And then there's security. It's the same story there. The Chief of Army Staff, the Inspector General of Police Heads of the Department of State Security, Immigration, Customs, all Yoruba.
So it does raise the question then.
Yeah.
Is this about getting the best people for the job or is there something else going on?
Well, that's exactly what Fasan is worried about. He's saying that, with all this power concentrated in one group,
Right.
especially in a country with Nigeria's history, it could really cause problems.
What kind of problem?
Like a lot of resentment and distrust between the different groups,
That makes sense.
which makes it even harder to deal with problems that need everyone to work together.
Yeah, you need everyone on the same page.
Right, you need unity. And Fasan brings up this thing that Tinubu said a while back.
What's that?
Tinubu said he doesn't believe in one Nigeria.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Fasan's basically saying that what Tinubu's doing now totally contradicts that.
That's a good point.
Like, if he doesn't believe in a unified Nigeria, then what is he trying to do? Is he putting one group above the whole country?
And that's where it gets complicated.
It really does. Because we have to think about what could happen if he keeps going down this road.
Yeah, and it's important for people to remember that Nigeria has something like over 370 ethnic groups.
Right. It's so diverse.
With all these different cultures and histories.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have this kind of dominance by one group,
Yeah,
it's easy to see how the others might feel left out.
absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
they don't matter. And that feeling of being excluded,
Right.
even if it's just a feeling,
Right.
can lead to all sorts of trouble.
Like what?
Instability, conflict.
Oh, wow.
Fasan even says that Tinubu might be pushing the country further apart instead of bringing it together.
Huh. So he lays out all these arguments.
He does.
He gives all these examples.
Yep.
But what are the specific risks he sees from this Yorubanization of the government?
Well, he talks about a few main worries. First, he's concerned about ethnic divides and tensions getting even worse,
Okay.
More mistrust, more hostility between different groups, which makes it even tougher to deal with national challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could create even more gridlock in the government, couldn't it?
Exactly, more instability. And it's not just political.
Right.
Fasan is also worried about economic marginalization.
Okay.
If most of the key economic positions are held by one ethnic group, it's not hard to imagine that resources and opportunities
Right.
might end up going mostly to them.
And that's a problem.
It is, because it means that Tinubu, whether he means to or not,
Right.
could be creating a system where some groups benefit at the expense of others.
So in the long run,
Yeah.
that could be really bad for Nigeria's development and for people getting along.
It's not just about who's in charge.
Yeah.
It's about how those people in charge affect the lives of everyone in Nigeria.
And this brings us to another interesting part of Feson's argument.
Okay.
His focus on this idea of Omoldwabi.
Right, which is this core value in Yoruba culture.
Can you explain that a little
Yeah,
bit?
basically, omoliwabi is about honor, integrity, fairness.
Okay.
It means being a good person,
Yeah.
acting justly and responsibly.
Got it. So Fasan is saying that what Tinubu is doing kind of goes against that.
That's right. He's saying that by favoring one group over others,
Okay.
Tinubu is acting against the ideas of fairness and justice that are so important to being Yoruba.
Wow. That's a big statement.
It is, and it adds another layer to all of this. Because if people see Tinubu contradicting the values he claims to represent,
Right.
it could actually hurt the reputation of all Yoruba people.
It's not just about one person then.
Nope. It's about how that one person reflects on a whole group of people.
And this leads us to another interesting part of this.
What's that?
The reactions from other Yorubas.
Oh, right. Because it's not like they all agree with Tinubu.
Exactly.
Fasan points out that Afenifere,
How are they?
they're a really important Yoruba sociocultural group, and they've publicly criticized Tinubu's appointments.
Really?
They're worried about how it'll affect relationships between different groups,
Right.
and they're worried about the potential for conflict, which is a pretty strong stance.
Yeah. Especially coming from a group within his own ethnicity.
Exactly. So it's interesting then
What is?
that other big Yoruba leaders like Chiefs Reuben Fazaranti and Olufale,
Okay.
they've been pretty quiet about all this.
And they supported Tinubu before, right?
They did.
So what do you think is going on there?
Well, Fasan talks about this Yoruba proverb
Right.
that basically means you support your own child even if they mess up.
Interesting.
It's about this idea of loyalty within the family
I see.
and within your ethnic group.
So maybe Fezzaranti and Filet,
Maybe.
they're struggling
Yeah.
with being loyal to their group versus what's good for the whole nation.
That could be. It's a really tough position to be in,
It is.
especially in a country as diverse as Nigeria.
It's fascinating how this one opinion piece
I know.
has opened up all these questions
It really has.
about ethnic identity,
Hmm.
political power, what it means to be a nation.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. And we have to remember that this is just one perspective. We need to hear from other people too, from different parts of the Yoruba community and beyond.
Definitely. We need the full picture.
So stick with us as we explore what could happen because of the way Tinubu is running things
Yeah.
and what it could mean for Nigeria's future.
Sounds good.
We have a lot more to cover in this deep dive.
We do. You know, it's like you see this struggle happening inside the Yoruba community itself.
Yeah.
You've got Afenifere. They're willing to call Tinubu out even if he's one of their own.
Right. And then you have people like Fazzaranti and Fele. They're more focused on sticking together.
Right. Even if it means staying quiet when things could be going wrong.
So it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
where does loyalty end and responsibility to the whole country begin?
Exactly.
Like, can you really save one group without thinking about what happens to everyone else?
It's tough. It really is.
And it makes you think about the power of speaking up
Mm-hmm.
versus staying silent. Is silence just agreeing with what's happening? Or is it something else?
That's a good question. It's hard to know for sure, but silence can be powerful.
How so?
It can create confusion, you know?
Yeah.
It lets people in power keep doing what they're doing without any pushback.
And in a place like Nigeria, where ethnic tensions have caused problems before,
Yeah.
that silence could look like weakness, or even like you're on their side.
It could. And it's not just about how Yorubas see it.
Right. Yeah.
What about all the other ethnic groups in Nigeria? How are they looking at this concentration of power?
You know, it reminds me of something Chinchua Achebe said.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
He said, the trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a failure of leadership.
Wow. That's really fitting here.
Isn't it? Nigeria has so much potential,
It does.
but they're always dealing with ethnic division and political instability.
It's true. And a lot of that comes down to the choices their leaders make.
And when those leaders put one group above the whole nation,
Yeah.
you can see how that leads to all sorts of problems.
Definitely resentment, division, instability.
And it's not just politics either.
Right? It affects everything. The economy, how people get along, the whole fabric of their society.
It's like a chain reaction.
It is. One decision can set off a whole bunch of consequences.
So it's important to talk about these things,
Mm-hmm.
to look closely at what the people in power are doing,
Yeah.
and to hold them accountable.
Absolutely.
So to our listeners out there who might be thinking,
Yeah.
why should I care about what's happening in Nigeria?
Good point.
Here's why. Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa,
Right.
and they're a major player on the world stage. What happens there affects everyone.
It does. And it's not just about Nigeria. This story shows us something that's a problem for a lot of societies.
Which is,
How do you create a system that's fair and includes everybody in a world that's so diverse and complicated.
We need to make sure that everyone,
Yeah.
no matter their ethnicity,
Uh-huh.
has the same opportunities
Right.
and is saying the things that affect their lives.
Exactly. And we have to recognize that the things leaders do, they have a big impact on ordinary people.
They do.
They can bring people together or tear them apart.
And in Nigeria, with their history of ethnic tensions,
Right.
stakes are really high.
They are. So Fessan's article has started a lot of debate in Nigeria.
I bet.
And it's important to remember that there are many different ways of looking at this.
There are.
What we've tried to do today
Yeah.
is to give you the information, analyze the arguments, and get you thinking critically about this complex situation.
Exactly. Because in the end, the future of Nigeria depends on the choices its people make.
That's true.
And those choices are based on the information they have,
Yeah.
the discussions they have,
Yeah.
and the different perspectives they consider.
It all comes down to that.
Yeah.
So keep looking into this.
Yes.
Look for different points of view. Have thoughtful conversations about how to build a more fair and just society.
We've got a lot to talk about.
We do.
So let's continue this deep dive. And I was like, even if Tinubu thinks he's doing what's best for the Yorubas, could this actually end up hurting them?
It's possible he could be making things worse without realizing it.
Like, by making everyone else feel left out.
Right. Like they don't matter. It
Right.
could create even more tension and division.
Exactly. And it's not just about the Yorubas.
Yep.
If all these other groups,
Mm-hmm.
if they start to feel like they're being shut out of power
Yeah.
and they can't get ahead economically,
Right.
it's going to affect the whole country.
Absolutely. It could lead to all sorts of problems. Unrest, instability, maybe even violence.
And once that starts,
Yeah,
it's really hard to stop.
it is. So what can we do? What's the way forward?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is. But one thing's for sure, we need more talking,
Okay.
more open communication. Tinubu needs to actually sit down with leaders from every group,
Yeah.
listen to their concerns,
Yeah.
and show them that he really wants to include everyone.
It's not just about having a cabinet that looks diverse.
Right. It's about making sure that everyone's voice is heard
R-
and that the decisions being made are good for the whole country, not just a few people.
Exactly. And it's about making sure that everyone has a chance to get ahead.
Definitely. Investing in education infrastructure jobs, especially in the areas that have been neglected.
That would help a lot, wouldn't it?
It would start to fix some of the inequality that causes all this tension.
And maybe most importantly,
Yeah.
we need to stop seeing this as a win-lose situation.
Like one group has to lose for another group to win.
Exactly. We need to start thinking about a shared future where
Yes.
everyone feels like they're part of Nigeria's success.
Like they have a role to play.
So this brings us back to you, the listener.
Yeah. What do you think?
We've talked about Fazan's article
Mhm.
about what it's like to be a leader in a diverse country
Right.
and about some things that could help.
Hopefully.
But now it's your turn.
Yeah.
Think about what you've heard. What does it mean for you? What does it mean for your community?
And for the kind of Nigeria you want to see.
And think about what we can learn from all of this.
Yeah.
About how important it is to include everyone. To be fair. To have leaders who care about the whole country.
That's what it comes down to.
Fassan ends his article with a really powerful question.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
He asks, can a leader really save one group without hurting the nation as a whole?
Wow. That's a good one.
It is. So we'll leave you with that question to think about, talk about,
Yeah.
and let it guide you in everything you do.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive
We hope you learned something,
and that it got you thinking.
and we hope you'll keep exploring these important issues.
We'll see you next time.